In the cold, silent dark of deep space, where stars are just distant memories and the blackness stretches on forever, a mystery has haunted the galaxy for eons. Some secrets are written in stone, others in flesh and bone, but the most terrifying secrets of all are written into the very fabric of reality. This is the story of one such secret and the unlikely souls who dared to uncover it. Chiron had always loved the quiet hours aboard the research vessel, the Infinite Pursuit. Her 4 eyes, arranged in a perfect diamond on her elongated face, reflected the soft glow of her scanner displays. She was young for a Valkyrie scientist, barely 2 centuries old, but her insatiable curiosity had already earned her a spot on one of the Galactic Consortium's most prestigious missions. The ship hummed with the gentle rhythm of its quantum drives, drifting through uncharted sectors, cataloging wonders most species would never see. Then 3 sharp beeps cut through the silence. Chiron's breath caught in her throat. Her main eyes locked onto the primary display, while her secondary eyes darted across the supplementary readouts. The patterns she saw. They defied every principle of astrophysics she had ever studied. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist were forming perfect geometric shapes across hundreds of light years. They pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost deliberate, almost alive. With a trembling finger, she tapped her communication badge. "Commander Valtryk, please report to Observation Deck 3. Priority level urgent." Within moments, the door hissed open. Commander Valtryk entered, carrying himself with the measured grace of a senior Valkyrie officer. The faint luminescent markings of his rank glowed on his gray skin, and his eyes held the weight of 12,000 years of accumulated species knowledge. He had seen nebulas born from cosmic dust, watched civilizations rise and fall like embers in the dark, and navigated regions where physics itself seemed to break down. Yet nothing could have prepared him for what Chiron was about to show him. "What have you found, researcher?" His voice was calm, professional, but Chiron could hear the current of interest just beneath the surface. She gestured to a holographic display, now filling the center of the deck. A 3-dimensional map showed a region of space 500 light-years across. At its heart, 17 star systems glowed in a soft blue light, each marked with a distinctive signature of human settlements. But it was what surrounded these systems that made Chiron's pulse race. Encircling all of human space in a perfect sphere was a network of energy patterns unlike anything in the Consortium's vast databases. Lines of crimson and gold light wove through space-time like threads in an impossibly complex tapestry. They formed symbols, equations, and warnings, all written in a language so ancient it predated the oldest known civilizations by billions of years. "I've been analyzing this for 17 days, Chiron explained, her voice gaining confidence as she slipped into the familiar rhythm of scientific reporting. Initial scans suggested some kind of energy barrier, maybe a defensive installation. But further analysis revealed something far more disturbing. These patterns aren't technological constructs, Commander. They are woven directly into the quantum substrate of reality itself." Valtryk moved closer, his 4 eyes narrowing as he studied the intricate patterns. "How is that possible?" Chiron brought up another screen, filled with complex formulas and spectral analysis. "I've cross-referenced our findings with every known phenomenon in Consortium records. The closest match comes from archaeological surveys of the precursor sites in the Andromeda sector. The same basic energy signature appears in artifacts dated to approximately 2.3 billion years ago. The precursors," Valtryk breathed. "The mythical race that supposedly seeded the galaxy with life before vanishing without a trace. Most scientists considered them pure speculation, a convenient answer for questions that had none. But if Chiron was right, if these patterns truly matched precursor technology, the implications were staggering." "There's more," Chiron continued. She manipulated the controls, and the display shifted, showing a translation matrix. "I was able to partially decode the patterns using proto-linguistic algorithms. The message repeats in multiple layers, each one reinforcing the same warning. She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. It says, "Quarantine zone. Evolutionary weapon active. Do not breach. Penalty is extinction." The observation deck fell silent. The only sound was the gentle hum of the ship. Vultrix stared at the translation, his mind racing. An evolutionary weapon. Something that could alter the very nature of life, rewriting the genetic code of entire species. And the humans? Were they the creators of this weapon, or its prisoners? Sealed away behind a warning written by beings who had mastered the universe when Vultrix's own ancestors were still just primitive cells floating in ancient seas. "Have the humans shown any awareness of these patterns?" he finally asked. Chiron shook her head. "None whatsoever. Our diplomatic corps has been in regular contact with their government for 15 years. They've never mentioned any energy barriers or ancient warnings. According to their own records, they only discovered faster-than-light travel 43 years ago. Before that, they were confined to their home system for their entire evolutionary history." "Confined," Vultrix repeated, tasting the word on his tongue. "Or contained?" A chilling question hung in the air between them. Were the humans being protected, or was the rest of the galaxy being protected from them? The ancient message was clear: do not breach. But Chiron and Vultrix both knew that the Galactic Consortium and humanity itself would not let this mystery lie. Their mission had just changed. They were no longer explorers. They were standing on the edge of a precipice, staring into a secret that could unravel everything they thought they knew about the universe and their place within it. The penalty for digging deeper could be extinction, but the cost of ignorance might be even higher. The journey into the heart of the human quarantine had just begun. Thanks for watching. If you want to find out what happens next, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of this cosmic mystery. See you in the next one. Imagine a council chamber floating between the stars, its walls transparent, showing the endless cosmic sea. This is the heart of the Galactic Consortium, where the greatest minds from 47 alien species gather. And in this hallowed space, they were debating a discovery that could shatter their entire civilization. A young researcher named Chiron watched from the gallery. It was her data they were dissecting, her discovery that had thrown the galaxy into a panic. She had found a network of energy patterns, ancient and powerful, surrounding all of human space. The Council's top minds had confirmed it. These were precursor constructs, left by a godlike civilization that had vanished eons ago, and their message was a dire warning. Counselor Murnith, a being of living crystal, presided over the emergency session. His voice, like chimes, echoed through the hall. The energy patterns around human space are authentic precursor constructs, and their message is unambiguous. We face a question that could determine the survival of us all. The chamber buzzed with fear and confusion. Some delegates screamed for war, demanding humanity be wiped out before this supposed weapon could be unleashed. Others argued for a total quarantine to seal off human space forever, pretending they never existed. A few brave souls suggested a radical idea. Why not just ask the humans what they know? But fear drowned them out. The risk of triggering a catastrophe was too great. For 3 hours, the debate raged, a storm of alien voices arguing the fate of a species that wasn't even there to defend itself. Then the impossible happened. The massive chamber doors slid open without authorization. A human woman strode in, flanked by 2 security guards who looked utterly bewildered, as if they'd tried to stop her and failed. She wore a crisp naval uniform, her eyes burning with a fierce predatory intelligence. The room erupted. How did she know about this secret meeting? How did she breach the Council's legendary security? The woman walked to the center of the room, her voice cutting through the chaos like a laser. "My name is Captain Rebecca Torres, diplomatic liaison for the human systems. I believe you are discussing matters that concern my people. And interestingly, nobody thought to invite us to the conversation. Counselor Murnith tried to regain control. Captain Torres, this is a closed session. Your presence is highly irregular. Rebecca offered a smile that was all ice. With respect, Counselor, you are discussing whether to exterminate my entire species based on warnings you don't understand. I would say my presence is not just irregular, but absolutely essential. She tossed a small data device onto the central platform. A new hologram flickered to life, and a wave of shock silenced the room. The image showed Earth, the human homeworld, but from millions of years in the past, and surrounding it were the same crimson and gold energy patterns found today. But these ancient patterns were different. They pulsed with raw, untamed power, like a star about to go supernova. Rebecca's voice dropped to a quiet, chilling tone. My ancestors did not build those warnings. They were built to contain us, not because we created some weapon. We are the weapon. We have always been the weapon. An uproar. Impossible. Someone shouted, "Humans are primitive. Your technology is a joke compared to ours." Rebecca just nodded. True. Our technology developed very late. Most species reach the stars within 10,000 years of developing agriculture. It took us 12,000. Have you ever wondered why? She scanned the room, her gaze piercing. Because something kept holding us back. Every time human civilization got close to space travel, something would happen. A plague, a cataclysmic war, a natural disaster that would send us back to the Stone Age. It happened 17 times. Researcher Shirene's heart hammered in her chest. She frantically cross-referenced Rebecca's data with her own. The pattern was undeniable. Human history wasn't a straight line of progress. It was a sawtooth, a constant rise and fall, a desperate climb only to be knocked back down again and again. The precursors didn't just build a cage around our world, Rebecca continued. They built a cage around our development. They tried to keep us grounded, to find a way to deal with us safely. But they failed. Eventually, we broke through. We reached the stars not because we were advanced, but because we were too stubborn to stay down. But why? A voice called out. What makes humans so dangerous that the precursors, beings who could rewrite reality itself, had to imprison your entire species? Rebecca's face grew somber. She changed the hologram, this time showing ancient cave paintings from Earth. The paintings were primitive, yet horrifyingly familiar. They depicted humans fighting creatures that the council members recognized species from the consortium's own historical records, species that had gone extinct millions of years before humanity was even supposed to exist. We found these paintings all over our world, Rebecca explained. For centuries, we thought they were just myths. But after we met you, we started recognizing the monsters our ancestors drew. The Velkari, the Thorians, the Kreshna. Dozens of species, painted on cave walls by people who shouldn't have known they existed. The truth is buried in our DNA, in sequences we always called junk. But it's not junk. It's a record. It's the history of what we were before the precursors tried to reset us. Humanity did not evolve on Earth, counselors. We were exiled there, after we nearly destroyed the entire galaxy in a war that most of you have forgotten. A profound, terrified silence fell over the chamber. Shireen stared at her screen, her mind reeling. The warnings, the developmental resets, humanity's relentless drive, it all made a terrible kind of sense. This wasn't humanity's first steps into the galaxy. It was a return. The weapon had not only escaped its cage, it had forgotten it was a weapon at all. And now, Rebecca said softly, her voice echoing in the deafening quiet, you must decide what to do with us. Again, the council chamber was frozen. A shocked silence hung in the air as Captain Rebecca Torres's words echoed through the vast space, shattering everything the galaxy thought it knew about itself. Chiron found herself standing without even realizing it, her 4 eyes fixed on the human captain. Delegates from 47 worlds sat stunned, their faces a mix of fear and dawning determination. Chiron understood, in that crystallizing moment, that this wasn't just a scientific discovery. This was a turning point, a fulcrum upon which the future of all sentient life would pivot. Rebecca stood alone in the center of the chamber, waiting. There was a profound stillness about her, a patience that spoke of a deep species memory, of countless generations that had endured and survived against impossible odds. Looking at her, Chiron saw not a threat, but something far more complex. A mirror, maybe, reflecting back truths the galaxy had spent millions of years desperately trying to forget. Suddenly, the holographic displays around the chamber flickered to life, changing without anyone touching the controls. The images shifted, showing new data, information that even Rebecca seemed surprised to see. Ancient star charts materialized in the air, showing the galaxy as it had existed 2 billion years ago. Entire sectors that were now empty voids had once teemed with civilizations, thousands of species working together in what looked like a golden age of cooperation and unbelievable advancement. Then the images changed again, violently. Those same regions were now being torn apart by war. Planets burned, stars went dark, entire solar systems collapsed into black holes. And at the center of all this apocalyptic destruction were figures that looked disturbingly like humans, but transformed, evolved into something that wielded power beyond all comprehension. A new voice filled the chamber, ancient and vast, speaking in a language that translation devices struggled to render. Slowly, the words became clear. "I am the custodian," the voice said. "I am what remains of those who made the difficult choice. I have waited 2 billion years for this moment, for humanity to reclaim enough of itself to hear the truth." A form materialized in the center of the chamber right beside Rebecca. It appeared as pure light, shaped into something that almost resembled a precursor, tall, elegant, composed of flowing energy that hurt to look at directly. Yet Chiron couldn't turn away. None of them could. The custodian's presence filled the room with a weight that transcended physical form. When it spoke again, every being present felt the words resonating in their very souls. Humanity was not exiled as punishment, the custodian explained. They volunteered. When the Great War threatened to tear reality itself apart, when entire dimensions began collapsing from the weapons being deployed, the human collective made a choice. They asked us to regress them, to strip away their advancement and let them begin again, hoping that a fresh start might purge the aggression that had driven them to such destruction. Rebecca's face showed no surprise, only a deep, profound sadness that suggested she had suspected this all along. "We chose to forget," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You chose to sacrifice everything you were for the chance to become something better," the custodian corrected gently. "The war ended because humanity removed itself from the equation. The other species involved eventually destroyed each other or evolved beyond physical form. The galaxy healed. Life continued. And humanity slept, dreaming primitive dreams on a small blue world, guarded by warnings meant not to keep others out, but to prevent a premature awakening." Commander Valtryk, the Velkari, stepped forward, his voice remarkably steady despite the magnitude of what they were learning. "Then why did the containment fail? Why are humans in space again?" The custodian turned its luminous form toward him. "Because consciousness cannot be truly erased, only suppressed. The human drive to explore, to question, to push beyond every boundary. These traits are fundamental to what they are. We bought time, millions of years, hoping it would be enough, hoping that when they finally broke free, they would have evolved past their destructive impulses. And have we?" Rebecca asked, her voice sounding so small in the vastness of the chamber. The question hung in the air, and Chiron realized that the fate of galaxies, past and future, depended on the answer. The custodian was silent for a long moment. Then it did something completely unexpected. It laughed. A sound like solar wind whistling through cosmic strings, both beautiful and terrible. That is not for me to answer, Captain Torres. I am merely a recording, an echo of the past. The choice before this council is the same choice the precursors faced long ago. But, it continued, I will tell you what I have observed during my long watch. The holographic displays changed once more, showing human history from a new, intimate perspective. Images of humans caring for their sick, building communities, creating breathtaking art, exploring not to conquer, but to understand. Yes, there was violence in their past, wars and cruelty that made Shirene's hearts ache with a shared pain. But there was also something else, something that grew stronger with each passing generation. Compassion, cooperation, the willingness to sacrifice for others. I have watched humanity climb from the ashes 17 times, the custodian said. Each time, they could have chosen domination. Each time, they chose differently. When they finally reached space, their first act was not to conquer, but to seek friendship. When they encountered the consortium, they asked to learn, not to lead. The weapon still exists within them. Make no mistake. The capacity for terrible power remains encoded in their very being. But so does the capacity for extraordinary good. Shirene found herself moving forward, drawn toward Rebecca by an impulse she didn't fully understand. The human captain looked at her, and in that moment, Shirene saw past the genetic legacy, past the ancient fears and terrifying warnings. She just saw a person, flawed and struggling, carrying the weight of 2 billion years of history, yet still choosing to hope. The question is not whether humanity is dangerous, the custodian concluded, its voice resonating with finality. All species with true consciousness are dangerous. The question is whether they can be trusted to wield that danger responsibly. That choice belongs to you, to this council, to this moment. Choose wisely, for the universe is watching, and it still remembers what happens when fear governs decisions. The custodian's form began to fade, its purpose fulfilled. But before it vanished completely, it spoke one final time, its words directed only at Rebecca. Your ancestors were brave enough to let go of everything they were. Be brave enough to become everything you could be. Silence returned to the chamber, heavier than before. Counselor Murnith's crystalline form pulsed with colors Shirene had never seen, emotions beyond standard translation. Finally, he spoke, his voice clear and ringing. We will vote, he announced, not on whether to destroy humanity, but on whether to trust them. Whether to believe that the long exile has transformed the weapon into a guardian, the destroyer into a protector. The vote took only moments. When it concluded, 46 species had voted to accept humanity into full consortium membership. Only one had abstained, unable to overcome ancient fears. But it was enough. Rebecca closed her eyes, and Shirene saw tears tracking down her face. When she opened them again, she looked directly at Shirene. Thank you, she said simply, for being curious enough to ask questions instead of afraid enough to demand answers. Shirene reached out with one slender hand, and Rebecca took it. In that touch, 2 species connected across a vast gulf of time and fear and history. Around them, the chamber began to stir with new conversation, new possibilities. The weapon had awakened, yes. But perhaps, Shirene thought, watching the human captain's grateful smile, perhaps weapons could choose to become something more. Perhaps that was the real lesson the universe had been waiting 2 billion years to teach. Not that dangerous things must be destroyed, but that they must be given the chance to choose their own path. Outside the chamber, the stars burned on, silent witnesses to a galaxy learning to hope again. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll never miss another journey into the unknown. We'll see you in the next one.